Do not be like the foolish children mentioned by me in the gospel. They heard other children sing, and they stopped their ears. They heard them play the pipes, and they did not dance. They heard them weep, and they wanted to laugh. Do not be narrow-minded. Do not be deniers. Accept the light without malice and stubbornness, without irony and disbelief. Enough said about that. To make you understand how grateful you must be to him who died to elevate you to heaven and to defeat Satan's concupiscence, I wanted to speak to you in this period of preparation for Easter of what was the first link of the chain by which the word of the Father was dragged to death, the divine lamb to the slaughterhouse. I wanted to speak to you about it, because at present 90% of you are like Eve, intoxicated by Lucifer's breath and words. And you do not live to love one another, but to glut yourselves with sensuality. You do not live for heaven, but for filth. You are no longer creatures gifted with soul and reason, but dogs without soul and without reason. You have killed your souls and perverted your reason. I solemnly tell you that brutes surpass you in the honesty of their love. You'll note that Jesus says at the beginning of this, near the beginning of this comment, I said metaphorical tree. Now I will say symbolical tree. Its symbol is clear. The inclination to good and to evil of the two children of God will be understood by their behaviour towards the tree. So it was going to be a test of them. So even though he calls it metaphorical tree or symbolical tree, doesn't mean it wasn't a tree. But there is a bit of greyness here in what he's saying. Was it an actual tree or not? I personally do not feel sure. But there was a real couple, Adam and Eve, and there was something which caused them to choose for God or against God. Jesus says, the inclination to good and to evil of the two children of God will be understood by their behaviour towards the tree. Later on, he says, a little bit further on, also the fruit that was offered and eaten was symbolical. It was the fruit of an experience they wanted to have at Satan's instigation to break God's command. I had not forbidden men love. I only wanted them to love each other without malice. So here, is it actual fruit on an actual tree? Or is the reference to fruit in Genesis a symbol? He says it was the fruit of an experience they wanted to have. So is it that they had presented in front of them a possibility of having a forbidden experience, and that set against the backdrop of God's telling them they must not seek out that experience? One is not clear, but unfortunately I don't think throughout the poem of the Man God we get absolute clarity on whether this tree was a tree or symbolising the choice they might make, Adam and Eve, and whether the fruit was real or whether it was a symbol of an experience presented to them by Satan to take against God's will. Well, we know we'll know one day even if I fail to interpret this correctly. And feel free, if you are a reader of Maria Valtorta's writings and you think it's pretty clear that this is the garden, so that the tree is symbolical, or it's pretty clear that it's actual,